Once upon a time, in a bright and busy village, there lived a couple named Fatima and Lau. They had a small home, not big or fancy, but it was always full of love. Fatima was a beautiful woman with a kind smile that could light up any room. Lau was a strong and hard-working man who loved his family more than anything. They had 4 wonderful daughters, each one as precious as a sparkling gem. The girls were full of joy, running around their small home, laughing and playing. Even though Fatima and Lau didn't have much, their daughters filled their hearts with happiness. But life was hard. They were very poor. Every morning, before the sun fully rose, Lau left home to work on other people's farms. He would sweat under the hot sun, digging, planting, and carrying heavy loads. His hands were rough, and his back ached every night, but he never complained. He worked hard just to make sure his family had food to eat. Fatima worked just as hard. She woke up early to fetch water from the village well, carrying a heavy clay pot on her head. She washed clothes for other families and carried goods in the market to earn a few extra coins. At the end of the day, no matter how tired they were, Fatima and Lau always came home with warm smiles for their daughters. But despite all their hard work, life was not easy. Their daughters were growing, and they needed books and pencils for school. But many times, Fatima and Lau didn't have enough money to pay for their school fees. Sometimes, the girls had to come home early because they were sent away from class. Lau felt ashamed when he saw the sadness in his daughter's eyes. Fatima felt helpless when she saw her girls trying to learn without books. But even in the toughest times, they never let their struggles steal their happiness. At night, under the twinkling stars, Lau and Fatima sat outside their small house, holding hands. "We will find a way," Lau said softly. "Yes," Fatima agreed, resting her head on his shoulder. "We must keep hoping." But hope alone was not enough. One morning, Lau woke up with a heavy heart. He could not bear to see his family suffer anymore. He had to do something. "I will visit my friend in the next village," he told Fatima. "Maybe he can help me." Fatima nodded, her eyes full of hope. "Be careful, my love." And so, Lau set off on a long journey, walking under the big blue sky. He thought about his little daughters, their laughter, and their dreams. He thought about Fatima and how hard she worked. He needed to find a way to change their lives. After many hours of walking, he reached his friend's house. His friend welcomed him warmly, offering him a seat and some water. Lau sighed and told his friend about their struggles. "I work hard every day, but it is never enough. My daughters deserve a better life. Please, can you help me?" The friend looked at Lau carefully and then spoke. "I won't just give you fish, Lau," he said. "I will teach you how to fish." Lau frowned. "I don't understand." His friend leaned in closer and whispered, "There is someone who can help you, a man of great power, a herbalist. He lives deep in the forest. If you go to him, he will show you how to become rich." Lau's heart leaped with hope. "Where can I find him?" he asked eagerly. His friend pointed toward the dark forest. "Go straight until you see a hut covered in strange marks. That is where he lives." Lau thanked his friend and left immediately. He walked for a long time, the trees growing taller and the path getting darker. Strange birds chirped, and the wind whispered through the leaves. Finally, he saw it, a small hut covered in mystical symbols. Lau felt a shiver run down his spine as he stepped closer. The herbalist was waiting. An old man with piercing eyes sat inside. The air smelled of herbs and something else, something strange. Lau swallowed hard and stepped inside. The herbalist listened to Lau's story, nodding slowly. Then, his eyes twinkled in a way that made Lau uneasy. "I can make you very rich," the herbalist said. "But it comes with a price." Lau leaned forward, desperate. "What do I have to do?" The herbalist's smile disappeared. "You must use your children in the ritual." Lau's heart stopped. "What?" he gasped. The herbalist's voice was calm. "They will not die, but they will suffer. In return, You will have all the riches you desire." Lau's body turned cold. He felt sick. His daughters were everything to him. How could he harm them? "I can't do that," he whispered, shaking his head. "I want to make my children's lives better, not hurt them." But the herbalist's voice turned dark. "You have already come here," he said. "Your eyes have seen. Your ears have heard. If you walk away, you will never make it home." Lau's blood ran cold. He looked around the small hut, feeling trapped. The room seemed to close in on him. He thought about his little girls, their tiny hands holding his, their bright eyes looking up at him with trust. But then he thought about the empty pots at home, the unpaid school fees, the worn-out clothes his daughters had to wear. His heart felt heavy. With shaking hands, he agreed to the dark deal. The herbalist gave him a small black pouch filled with powder. "Mix this into their food," he instructed. "Then wait." Lau took the pouch and walked home, his feet dragging, his heart pounding in fear and shame. He told himself that everything would be okay, that somehow it wouldn't be as bad as it sounded. But deep inside, he knew the truth. Lau walked back home under the darkening sky, his hands gripping the small black pouch tightly. The words of the herbalist echoed in his mind. His feet felt heavy, as though the weight of his decision had settled deep into his bones. As he neared his small house, he saw the warm glow of the oil lamp through the window. He could hear the soft laughter of his daughters as they played inside. For a brief moment, he hesitated. Could he really go through with this? Could he harm the very people he had sworn to protect? He stepped inside, forcing a smile as Fatima turned to greet him. "You are home," she said, relief in her voice. "Did you find help?" Lau swallowed the lump in his throat. "Yes," he lied, avoiding her gaze. "I met someone who gave me a charm. He said it would bring us fortune." Fatima frowned. "A charm? What kind of charm?" Lau pulled out the pouch and placed it on the table. "It is a special powder. We must mix it into the children's food." Fatima stared at him, her instincts immediately warning her that something was wrong. "Lau, what are you saying? What kind of charm needs to be put in our daughter's food?" Lau looked away, unable to meet her eyes. "It will not harm them," he said quickly. "It will just change things. Make our lives better." Fatima's hands trembled as she reached for the pouch. She untied the knot and peered inside. A strange, musty smell rose from the dark powder. Her stomach twisted with unease. "Where did you get this?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "Who gave this to you?" Lau hesitated. "A herbalist. He lives deep in the forest." Fatima's eyes widened. "Lau, you went to a witch doctor?" Lau flinched at her words. "I did it for us, Fatima, for the girls. I work hard every day, yet we have nothing. They have no books, no new clothes. Sometimes we cannot even feed them properly. How long must we suffer like this? This is our chance." Fatima's heart pounded. "And what price must we pay?" "Nothing comes for free, Lau." "What did that man tell you?" Lau's face darkened. He clenched his fists, struggling to speak. He said, "They will not die, but they will suffer." A cold silence filled the room. Fatima felt as though the air had been knocked from her lungs. Her eyes filled with tears as she shook her head. "How could you even consider this? They are our children." Lau's shoulders slumped. "I thought it was the only way. I wanted to give them a better life." Fatima took a deep, shaky breath. She picked up the pouch and, before Lau could stop her, she threw it into the fire. The flames roared, turning the powder into dark smoke that curled into the air. A terrible, unnatural wind blew through the room, rattling the windows. The children, sensing something was wrong, huddled together in fear. Lau grabbed Fatima's arm. "What have you done?" Fatima's eyes burned with fury. "I saved our daughters. We may be poor, but we will never trade their happiness for gold. Never." Just then, the lamp flickered violently, and a whisper, low and menacing, filled the room. Lau and Fatima froze. The herbalist's warning rang in Lau's mind. You have already come here. Your eyes have seen. Your ears have heard. If you walk away, you will never make it home. A shadow moved across the walls, and a chilling presence settled into their home. Something had followed him back. Something angry. The girl screamed as the room plunged into darkness.